Welcome back to an unexpected art lesson. Today we are continuing our deep dive into Ukiyo-e, the art of Japanese woodblock printing.
Alright, so Kuniyoshi, he is my favorite of these three artists, mostly because this dude loved cats. He drew cats through his entire lifetime. And not only did he draw cats, he did not draw cats in like the usual mythical or ephemeral deities that were often portrayed in Japan. He portrayed them as the derpy little weirdos they are, which I think is just awesome.
I mean, that's why we love cats here. That's why we love cats, because they're derpy little weirdos. And some of them are chaos incarnate.
Yes, if you hear any loud thumpings followed by chirping, you will be hearing the sound effects of Artie as he just goes zooming past the studio. Oh goody. But speaking of weird and interesting cats, Kuniyoshi, this particular artist was born on January 1st, 1798, although obviously as an aside, some of the birth records of Edo at this particular time frame are a little bit in flux, so January 1st may have been the official placeholder date, as nobody could quite determine where at the beginning of January. But that is an interesting discussion, saved for better for somebody who's actually more familiar with the Edo Musashi province at that particular time. He started by assisting in his father's business as a pattern designer, and actually, this is kind of what would have helped encourage his use of color and textile patterns when he does his own prints, especially since this particular dude was already doing ukiyo-e warrior prints and pictures of artisans and commoners and cats by age 8.
Oh, he's one of those starts early and does incredibly impressed. Whoa, I just Googled and I'm like, wow. The details are so intense and epic, and I love the colors too. Also, lots of dragons. I love dragons.
Dragons, cats, skeletons. He has kind of got a rather...
I think I see someone riding a frog.
Yeah, frogs actually would also be another thing that does hold some relevance in Japanese folklore. Also, this guy literally has done some of the strongest kind of warrior prints that you would see carried over into modern art influences today as well.
Yeah, I am seeing quite a few examples of warriors where it's just focused on them, warriors in battle, and the detail work on the clothing. You can definitely see where this is someone who knows how textiles work and how things look on fabric and found a way to include that in the woodblock print, as well as the motion, the way it moves and the way it changes the visual effect of the pattern that's on the fabric, which is really cool.
Incredibly. The entire hierarchy surrounding vibrant color in the use of Japanese textile and especially clothing for royalty and their warrior classes such as samurai at the time, this would have also been what really helped bring out the brightness and the vibrancy of his prints, because this is what his father was designing.
Yeah, so he took what he knew, what he was familiar with, and turned it into something else that is equally as inspiring and easily accessible. So you can wear his art as well as hanging it up on your wall.
Hey, I would totally rock some of the stuff he's done here.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I would love to say the warrior stuff, I would go with his derpy cats.
That'd be such a fun conversation piece, though, just covered in these derpy cats. I keep getting drawn to, there's an image of a dragon that is diving down towards the sea, where it's got a lot of blue greens with red, gold, and black stripes. Yeah, dragon in the sea. Just the rippling effect that I believe is there to represent the scales, the webbing between the little, I'm guessing they're like bones or claws along the wing and in the tail as it's diving back towards the sea. It's gorgeous.
Dang. Okay, yeah, found that piece. This is very interesting as well because the use of the reds, blues, and more importantly, the gold are usually color choices that are reserved for the nobility at that time. Also, his extravagant brushwork that he puts into this, it's phenomenal. And again, this is another instance of Kuniyoshi also adapting some of the familiar imagery with his own style, as up until this point, dragons usually did not have such detailed webbing put into their wings or even the grandiose pose. Usually they were more serpentine instead of, well, I guess this would be a bird of prey.
This one definitely feels a lot more like a bird of prey versus a serpent, and it's like with many birds that live around the ocean, looks like it's about to dive into the water to get the prey.
Going for sushi.
Or swimmers.
Both would probably be slow moving and probably delicious, so.
Yeah, swimmers are a little bit more crunchy though. Just depends on what he's in the mood for.
Skip the dishes, it was a much more interesting time back then. And of course, Kuniyoshi does evolve his style as he progresses. However, it is interesting to note that at the age of 12, Kuniyoshi had actually already attracted the attention of one of the more well-known ukiyo-e printmasters, Utagawa Toyokuni, becoming an apprentice in his studio in 1811 and apprenticed till 1814. At that point, he was actually considered an equal and given the name Kuniyoshi and became an independent artist.
So, he was a savant, in a way. Naturally gifted. Also would not be surprised if he was at least one, if not multiple flavors of neurodivergent, with the fixation on the art and the style and the amount of time and focus and effort it would take to get to this level.
Oh yeah, I would have to agree with that. Just the sheer amount of works he has produced in such a short time, and even some of the iconography used in his early warrior prints. He was incredibly accurate to what the color choices and designs for armor at that time was. Dude straight up was a comic book cover artist of the early days.
Basically, yeah. How long was he making these prints and working on this art? And did he switch to anything else?
In Kuniyoshi's case, he did occasionally divert to doing textile work for the various nobility. However, there are few and far between examples of that. His primary work for the 60 years he was producing is definitely Ukiyo-e, with the focus on warriors, famous actors at the time, as well as cats, octopus, and more cats.
Nice to see the guy has variety. Everything from all of the cats to epic battles with warriors to, oh hey, more cats.
And then, hey, I'm going to parody other artists' work, but with cats.
Now I'm wondering if this was someone who adopted every cat that he saw, or desperately wanted to be a cat person but was actually allergic, so he couldn't be. So he just put cats in all of his art because he wants to be a cat person so bad.
As a cat person, we salute you, Kuniyoshi. And now I'm just imagining him running around drawing cats.
There are worse things to run around drawing everywhere. Cats are delightful.
His work subject matter did, of course, adjust a little bit later on in his life. He did work more on actor prints. In the late 1840s, there actually was an act of censorship starting to go through Tokyo, which did restrict many artists on the subjects of what they could create. Kuniyoshi looked at that and went, "Ha, stop me."
What are you gonna do about it?
This time he evades censorship through childish, cartoon-like portraits of famous kabuki actors. One of the most notable pieces, actually, is known as Scribbling on the Storehouse Wall. Which, again, you know when he goes straight up Banksy with the weirdest title ever? It's gonna be cool.
I love how his reaction to censorship is basically, I'm going to do this, but chibi, and you can't stop me. Except chibi doesn't exactly fit with the design. It is definitely more cartoon caricature. It's just the vibe difference. Chibi would be a good modern comparison.
I like that.
And a lot of these designs make me think of the character designs in the animated Mulan movie. That could just be because the art style from back then, but a lot of these specifically make me think of that.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I definitely do recall Mulan. They definitely did pay tribute to the ukiyo-e artists of that time too, especially with some of the introduction scenes and setting up the comedy of, again, having a cat's print on a ukiyo-e because the cat ran across it.
It wouldn't be too much of a stretch to see the influence spreading because the art spread from Japan into China, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to see reminders that Disney does do their research.
Oh, yes. And, well, some artists may have actually bowed to the shogunate ideals of what can and cannot be produced. When they stopped him from doing the cartoon versions of actors, he then put cats in place of human in kabuki for satirical prints. He also is one of the individuals who helped change composition styles of ukiyo-e to, instead of the more kind of block print that you would see in the vertical scrolls, he went with more wider displays as well. One of the particular pieces worth mentioning on that would be Masakado's daughter, the Princess Takayashi, at the old Soma Palace. This dude did not halfway on any of his titles.
I'm gonna need you to spell that name for me.
Masakado, daughter, the Princess Takayashi, Takiyasha, at the old Soma Palace. Soma is, of course, the proper phonetic of S-O-M-A, and you know the rest.
Oh, it's the one with the giant skeleton in it.
Yes.
When you're looking at straight on left-hand panel, we have a woman looking at a document scroll. In the middle panel, we have the skeleton over... I'm assuming genders on these. I might be incorrect, and if I am, I apologize. Two men in what feels almost like warrior, at least ceremonial garb, on the ground with the giant skeleton leering down at them. And then in the right-hand panel, we have the skeleton's very, very large ribcage and very large spinal column. There was one very thick skeleton.
He's a big boy.
Yeah, and the head does not fit with the body proportion-wise, but that just kind of makes it even funnier.
It is an interesting choice of how the composition is set up because, of course, up until recently, triptychs were not a huge choice within ukiyo-e prints just because of the reproducible nature. However, it is fantastic because this tells the story of a princess reciting a spell on a hand scroll and she's summoning a giant skeletal specter. And of course, at this particular time,
that's not a story they would be telling very often, I don't think.
No.
She's cool, I love her. She is now one of my heroes.
The fact is that, again, with the compositional choice in the design, it does help set that skeletal specter as this supernatural figure as opposed to what could just be considered a regular old skeleton. He wanted it to have this garish, overarching feeling, which also does play with the composition, too.
Yeah, and the skull is vaguely humanoid, but there's something about the back of it, where the back of the head would connect to the neck, that doesn't look quite right, and around the teeth are... I don't know how to explain how they're wrong, but they are. But not in the Uncanny Valley horror way, just in the, yeah, that's not human.
Yeah, I agree. The skeleton's face is supposed to evoke the visual narrative of, this thing ain't a normal skeleton, this is a monster.
Yeah, it's a monster which would also fit with the proportion difference between the head and the body. This isn't the skeleton of something that was once human, it's the skeleton of a creature that's not from here. And it's going to eat you. If you don't leave me alone, is the vibe that I'm getting with how she is looking at the two people on the ground.
A very accurate summation. The other interesting thing, of course, with Kuniyoshi is that, well, he did create works that inspire reverence and awe. He, more often than not, had fun with what he was doing. Such as the cat pictures, of course, as the nod to one of the previous individuals we spoke of, Hiroshige, and his 53 stations of Tokaido. Hiroshige. Thank you! How did I forget that between last show and this show?
It's been a minute.
Oh yeah, skill.
Oh, there's some good detail on these cats, too. I have no doubt people would be able to most likely recognize who some of these cats were stand-ins for.
Yup.
It's nice to see artists have always been the rebels who will find a loophole to continue doing what they're doing. Because we are creative and we are stubborn.
Usually when somebody tells us no, we go, ha ha, watch this.
Exactly. You say I can't do it, I'm just going to do what I want to do over here in a slightly different way that you can't get me in trouble for something.
I'm not doing the thing you said I couldn't do. I'm almost doing the thing you said I couldn't do.
Exactly!
I just noticed one of the more comical ones of the 53 stations of the cat Taido. Right-hand side, the cat stealing the octopus bigger than itself.
Impressive.
I do enjoy that quite a few of these particular kind of two Hiroshige's 53 stations is cats being jerks.
They're cats. Of course they're being jerks. What do you expect? That's part of why we love them. They're adorable, they're fluffy, and they're just a little evil. Said with lots and lots of love. Please don't at me, cat lovers. I do love cats, I promise.
We have a cat here that will make some people question their fanaticism of cats, but he's a unique little guy.
You have multiple interesting cats.
Fair enough. Going back to the 53 stations of the Tokaido cats, and yes, I'm going to keep calling them random names apparently, it is interesting how he has literally come up with 53 different styles of cats. Everything from chonky boys to a cat showing you his butt, which, again, anyone who's owned a cat knows that's at least one of their default reactions.
I mean, all kinds of cats have wildly different personalities, so it wouldn't be too hard, and I feel like that'd also be a lot of fun. How many different ways can I display cats?
The answer? 53.
At least.
Yeah, fair enough, if not more. And Kuniyoshi, of course, did have a lot of fun with his cat-related themes because he would, again, place cats in for actors, heroes, and whatnot, but he also made a print of cats forming the character for Catfish.
I love that visual pun. It's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, it is impressive and kind of hilarious because you got to think back at the time they were at this point. The Ukiyo-e was usually more denoted for fantastic scenes of storytelling, and then we have cats.
It's the kind of art that if you pass it by on the street, you just kind of stop and have a little laugh and then keep going, and it puts a smile on your face. Because yes, epic scenes are inspirational, but something about cats spelling the word catfish just makes you laugh a little bit.
Yeah, that is kind of one of the strengths of art. Not everything needs to be this grandiose tale of the supernatural or of otherworldly things. The Ukiyo-e can be used to tell cats.
Yeah. Something simple and silly can inspire people.
Exactly. This was the prevalent style that Kuniyoshi had taken up until the end of his time. Unfortunately, the records do note that he suffered from palsy, which did weaken his work for the last few years, but he also was able to witnessed the opening of the city of Yokohama to foreigners in 1860 and produced 2 works depicting Westerners in the city. It would be The View of Honshu and The Pleasure Quarters, Yokohama. And just the fact is that this individual had taken steps to kind of welcome people into a realm that up until this point had been rather distrustful of foreigners. Well, he went, hey, new things, I'ma draw you.
Finding beauty in everything. It's everywhere, even in the unexpected places, and whenever you go somewhere new, it's just like, oh, new, shiny, pretty, colors, must draw.
Exactly, and that seems to be the entire summary of Kuniyoshi's catalog is, I'm going to draw cool things, and he was able to create a good life of that, which, hey, you know what? Getting to actually have fun drawing cats and getting paid, you can't go wrong.
Exactly, and it's also not surprising that I took the inspiration from the everyday, considering definitely drew some inspiration from Hiroshige, and as we talked about when we were looking at his 53 stations, it kind of felt like someone taking pictures while on a cruise, taking snapshots of places as they see it.
That is the perfect way to summarize, the 53 stations is, it's that tour of the world and what people experience, and it's that common kind of...
It's the beauty in the mundane.
There we go, thank you! Times like this, I wonder which one of us was the art school dropout again? Oh yeah, me.
I'm good at the words. And my anxiety works different than yours anxiety, so...
Yeah, I kind of go with the million miles an hour motion, and also one other I just noticed for Kuniyoshi, check out his Heroes of Our Country's Suiduken. Literally, it looks like a dude's beating a snake with a giant stick. Or the barrel of a gun.
Giant snake just bonking it on the head with a stick. I love the detail of the snake scales. Those are very well done.
Yeah, when you have to think about each of those snake scales has like 3 different colors, which means he would have had to work the woodblock print intricately in order to actually get that type of detail down. It is boggling how long that must have taken.
Yeah, this dude had definitely hyperfixated.
Oh yeah, as somebody who hyperfixates, I respect game.
Same. As someone who can hyperfixate and finish editing a really long thing in a scary short amount of time.
And my hyperfixation abilities usually do not result in that constructive of things. I just randomly clean stuff.
It would be good if my hyperfixation resulted in cleaning things, but no, it's, I get the hyper-creative productivity anxiety spirals. The joys of being creative and an artist, brain is just like, no, we're going to do this, and it's going to be done exactly like this. Or like, I have a cool idea for a thing, and just, you have to do it even if it results in you writing a 13-book novella series. You've been listening to An Unexpected Art Lesson featuring Brianna and Watson, as well as the music of Rick the Whitebird. Stay tuned next time to learn more about the art of Japanese woodblock printing. If you like what we're doing, you can follow us on social media and join the conversation over at An Unexpected Art Lesson on Threads, Blue Sky, and Substack. And you can also support us over on Patreon. Get early access to episodes and other fun things at patreon.com/anunexpectedartlesson.